Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for having us. It's a pleasure being here. I love the energy of this call. So I'm going to let Marco talk to you a little bit about what is LibreBor and why did we decided to create the connector, and then I'll do a small demo. Marco, over to you.
Thank you, Mario. So very quickly, LibreBor is essentially open source project that a student started a while back to make the company data available in a nice computer-friendly format so you could search for companies and directors of those companies. This is obviously focusing in Spain. It's built in Spain, where at the moment the government doesn't have an API for this type of data. They only publish it on PDF format, and the founder of this project essentially built a program that scans the PDF files, extracts the information, stores them on a JSON, and makes it available in this nice search engine that you have here. So, for example, if I search for the Microsoft company in Spain, you can see all the details and all the stuff. Now, this is great because there is not that many sources of information for free with all the company's data, and we noticed that there was an API to available for this service. So we approached the founder of this project to see if we could create a connector for Power Platform to use this data on Power Apps, etc., and even in Dynamics and other downstream applications, because it really has lots of value to allow you to validate ID numbers of companies, addresses, etc. So with that in mind, we started working with him. He had already an API definition, a Swagger file. It wasn't 100% compatible. We had to do a few fixes here and there, but Mario can tell you a little bit more about that in a second and show you the connector we built. It was, to be honest, our first experience creating a serious custom connector, and I'm pleased to say that it's much easier than everyone thinks. With a bit of patience and testing and all the tools that are available there, allows you to create really, really powerful connectors to essentially weave together all these APIs into our favorite low-code platform. So, Mario, do you want to show us the demo?
Yeah, no, definitely. So while Marco was telling you about the story of LibreBor, what I was doing is I was showing you a little bit the website, the LibreBor website, and this is effectively the information that we're going to be able to retrieve via our connector. And there are a lot of things that I'll show you down the line. But effectively, all the information that the Spanish register has for a company. So very simple scenario. Accounts and contacts, we have an application, the onboarding process of a new company, and we want to know as much information as possible from the Spanish register in this case. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create an account. The account, I'm going to just give it a name, and with that, what we're going to do is we're going to launch a search to LibreBor in order to be able to retrieve the data. Thank you, Todd. The data from that company. So we just save the account, and then what we're going to do is we're going to call flow, and I got a flow which is retrieve company details, okay? And I will show you how it works in a second. But now let's hope that I have prayed to the demo gods and that everything is going to be fine. Everything is going to work. I'm sure of that. But we just now trigger the flow, and it's going to go to the API from LibreBor, and it's going to come back with the information that it does. There you go. So we do have the account name. So it has found the account and it has updated the account name. It has also provided the NIF. The NIF is the national ID of that specific company within the registry. We then got the purpose, and I know I should have made that field a bit bigger, but we also have the purpose. Also the capital, how much money that company is saying that it has, of course, the address, and more importantly, it's bringing us the active members. So who are the active partners of that company as they are on the register. Now, another thing that we might want to do with a new account is that in this case, we have retrieved the NIF, the number, directly from LibreBor, but we might have that information already. And actually, as part of this onboarding process, what we might have is we might need to validate that. So for that, we also have an option in our connector that it allows you to validate that the DNI or the national ID is basically correct. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to click on that, and then we're going to validate this number that we got over here, which in this case is going to be perfect because we just retrieved it, so it's fine. But then once I trigger that, then it will allow me to go ahead And now we got the account validated and then move on to the business process flow. And it should have also triggered a notification. Okay, how did I do all this? Well, very simple. Let's have a look at the first one, which is retrieve company details, and then I'll show you how the connector works. In here, I can then choose, obviously, when a record is selected. I'll make it bigger. Then I can search for a company just using the account name. And what I'm doing here is basically I'm searching the company using the name in order to retrieve the slug. The slug is basically the hard-coded code that I'm going to use in order to retrieve all the other information. I could have retrieved all the other information by name, but it's a bit more tricky. So I get the company name, and then what I do is I get the company information by slug. Once I have all this information, then I go ahead and update the rows. I update, I put the information that I just showed you, and then I loop through all the active positions in order to create the contacts. Very simple, really, really easy. Let me show you some of the other actions that we have on LibreBor before I jump into the DNI validation. But over here, you can see that we can find company information by slug, which is the one that I use, by NIF, which is the ID number of that specific company. We can also search for person information of that specific, we can also get person information. So, for example, if we search for Amancio Ortega, who is the owner of Inditex, or Sara and Massimo Dutti, we can get information of that person and which companies he's owner of. And the other thing is to validate the NIF, which I'm going to show you in a second. So in order to validate that number, then it's as simple as just providing the number, and it will come back whether it's a valid one or invalid one. How is that validation happening? You might be thinking, why you didn't use a regex expression and that's it? Well, what we're doing is actually going to the register and validating that the NIF that we have in the register is the one that it is correct. So it's not only a validation in terms of it has X numbers or it has one letter, it actually goes to the register and brings back that information. And with that said, this is the end of the demo. Just one thing that Marco forgot to mention, and it's really funny, and it actually shows really the value of what Pablo, the owner of LibreBor, has done, is that Spain were forced at some point to go digital because all this was done in paper. So when Spain had the option, when the government had the option to actually go digital rather than building this API as Pablo did, what they actually did was, I'm not going to go and build a database and put all this information there. What I'm going to do is I'm carry on doing what I have been doing for 400 years, which is publishing everything on paper. But now I'm going to scan it and I'm going to give it to you in a PDF, which is completely mind-blowing.
Yeah, there is a bit of complexity behind that and some economic interest of the company's registry, but yes, it's true. And I don't know if Mario can show out quickly the connector definition there, but the process of building the connector is really simple. Once you have a bit of information about the API and how you define the Swagger, etc., you can just follow the assistance here and test it, validate it. It doesn't really require development knowledge. It helps, or you can also add some custom code and stuff, but it's really a case of understanding a little bit of the API definition. It's super powerful and really a nice way of bringing interconnectivity to all the Power Platform and by extension, Power Automate and all the
Logic apps as well. The other thing that I want to say is a big shout out to Natalie and the team behind the independent publisher connector, because the moment that you finish with your connector, you basically upload it to GitHub and then you receive constant feedback on a daily basis of how your connector is doing, what validations they're doing. And honestly, the process is so simple and they are so on top of you to make sure that you understand where is your connector in the journey. It is actually really good to work with them. And with that said, hoping that Natalie can be back on the call, she can then give us an update on the number of independent publisher connectors that we have.
And I think our mic is open, Natalie.
Great demo, Mario and Marco. But let me try sharing my screen. All right, so there are currently 72 connectors in production, but as also just to even step back, Mario and Marco talked about this a little, right? But the Independent Publisher Connector Program allows anyone to submit a connector to the Power Platform, right? So these connectors show up in Power Automate, Power Apps, and Azure Logic Apps, and soon in more products as well. So we have 37 outstanding publishers today, and all of their names are listed on the right side here. We also wanted to give an update that there is something called the Power Platform Integration Labs call. So this is Learn, Ask, and Build. And we've had one in January and one in February, and we're going to have our next one at the end of this month. And essentially, if you want to get the invite, feel free to ping me, Twitter, LinkedIn, here in the messages. I can send it to you, but that's also the link to join. It's just aka.ms/Power Platform Integration Labs. Essentially, we talk about all integration topics within the Power Platform, whether it's, how to build a trigger for a connector, how to use code for a connector, or anything to do with data flows. Last time, we talked about best practices for submitting connector, as well as upcoming ALM features for custom connectors as well. So it's definitely a great place to join and learn on what the product team is working on. In terms of how many connectors we have in the certification pipeline, we have 42. A lot of new exciting ones have been added. One that I will definitely be using once it's published is Monday.com. That's definitely been super popular PM tool out here. But there's a lot of exciting ones as well. Like we see Emoji Hub and Michael Scott quotes. So there's a lot in play. And of course, as always, Troy is leading in terms of building all these wonderful connectors. He's always going above and beyond to make sure that we have a long list for people to use. But yeah, that's all I had today. So I'm glad that this was able to work out. And I thank you for having me.
Awesome. Thank you, Natalie. Mario, Marco, fantastic stuff. It's great to see also that you're reaching out to other entities in the community, not just looking, and if they don't have anything or an open API, you're not just simply abandoning it, but you're actually collaborating with them to be able to create these connectors. So really great job. That's very, very cool. Thank you.